President Obama and I, and nearly all of our partners and allies, are convinced that President Assad, a tyrant, hell-bent on clinging to power, is no longer fit to lead the Syrian people, and he must go.
From 2011 until he departed the Eisenhower executive suite, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. did his poor best in trying to assist the coup in Syria with the use of terrorists, coming less than a year after supporting the NATO-led military intervention in Libya, killing its president, Muammar Gaddafi. This is Mosa Khatib, former leader of the Syrian National Coalition, opposition to the government. One militia of many that the coalition worked with were Al-Nusra Front, a Saudi-backed mercenary clan who for 7 years have been involved in trying to topple the Syrian president Bashar al-Assad. In 2013, Khatib expressed his concern over the Al-Nusra Front being labeled as a terror group, noting their helpfulness in the effort. Vice President Biden and President Obama gave their full support to the front group, even years after the coalition began to wane. In October 14, Robinette Biden said that Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates had poured hundreds of millions of dollars and tens of thousands of tons of weapons to anyone who would fight against al-Assad, except the people that were being supplied were al-Nusra and al-Qaeda and the extremist elements of jihadis coming from other parts of the world. Biden made this statement as if it were any secret. One of America's top Mid-East allies, the dictatorship of Saudi, not only involved in funding and weaponizing these groups, but doing so with the blessings of the United States, including its Vice President, Joe Biden. Biden even criticized President Trump for the idea of removing troops from Syria, making the claim that it would give Turkey a chance to attack Syrian Kurds. Criticism of Saudi Arabia from the Vice President is something very easy to achieve once out of the White House. Is something that the current president may have to wait a while for. Poised to win the 2020 election, Donald John Trump, for at least the last 5 years, has enjoyed his own comfortable relationship with terrorist leaders from the kingdom. One could argue that the dictatorship of Saudi Arabia has acted as a radical-making factory for many decades, responsible for helping to weaponize rebel fighters. In August 15, a paper report on Citizen Donald John Trump as he registers several businesses in Saudi, more than a year before being elected president. In November 15, the Obama State Department approves a rather generous Saudi arms trade deal. The deal is continued into the Trump administration. 4 months after being sworn in as President number 45 of the United States, Donald John is in the kingdom itself, sword dancing with its terrorist leaders. It seems to be a requirement that all presidents and hopefuls voice and act on their steady support of brutal dictatorships such as Saudi, no matter what they do, and no matter who they kill, despite which party is in office. The murder of a journalist working in the United States is nothing short of a brutal, terroristic act. Killed and dismembered, and not necessarily in that order, Jamal Khashoggi's murder exposed the new Saudi Vision 2030 as yet another sham. When a government can get its officers and officials to conduct a murder, possibly anywhere that they possess an embassy, and then get their most powerful allies to cover up that murder, who's to say that Khashoggi's fate was one used on multiple occasions to dispatch of any critics of the country, no matter where they lived? after the Saudian government was accused of a chemical weapons attack on its own people, an accusation repeated several times by the Obama White House, continuing in the Trump White House. The 45th president authorized airstrikes against the sitting government, not once, but twice, before any hint of an investigation had been launched. Meanwhile, as the chopped and stirred remains of journalist Khashoggi are carted off to their final resting place, the Trump regime and its allies of the Saudi regime remain intact. In November 18, Central Intelligence concluded that Saudi Crown dictator Mohammed bin Salman ordered the killing of this journalist. 7 months later, in June 19, when President Trump and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo met with bin Salman to discuss military matters, he reportedly didn't even bring up the subject of Khashoggi's assassination. A week later, at the G20 summit, even before the bloodied hands of Prince Salman were sufficiently dried, Trump shook bin Salman's hand. It's clear that whomever the victor of the 20 election, Joseph Robinette or Donald John, are poised to continue this relationship of terror.